So, welcome to Mind the Moment's Tuesday morning gathering brought to you by Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare and Tufts Health Plan. I'm Jackie Johnson with you on this Tuesday morning. I don't know, I was somehow on the Thursday link before. Thanks for letting me know that, Heather. So, welcome to those of you who are returning and to anyone who may be here for the first time. And just as a reminder, if you open up the chat at the bottom of your screen, just be sure that it reads everyone so that the whole community can see your comments. And it's nice to see lots of familiar names and to have the guidance of those of you who know where I'm supposed to be at a given point in time. So, as a reminder, I'll share a few thoughts with you and then lead a 12 to 15-minute guided practice. And after that, we'll have time for questions. So, feel free to say hello, as many of you are doing. And let's take a moment to arrive with a couple of intentional deep breaths, which are particularly helpful when something happens like finding you're on the wrong Zoom at the last moment, and we can get pulled away by the craziness of an emotion in the moment. So let's just take a moment for those couple of intentional breaths, noticing the impact of the day so far. And what's here in this moment? Just noticing any sensations you may be aware of. If it's helpful to close the eyes for a moment and just sort of take in sensations in the body, the feeling of being supported by your seat, if you're sitting, or the ground beneath you. And I'd love to start with a question this morning. And the question is, what sensations naturally remind you to be present, to sort of pause and just take note? And just to clarify the question, certainly that happens when there's a really strong sensation like pain or perhaps a loud noise or something like that. But I'm thinking more about subtle sensations that serve as reminders to just pause, maybe to take a breath and to notice something. And that might be a big one for me is noticing the feeling of sun on my face. And I sometimes notice that in the space where I practice or when I open my shades in the morning. It could be at this time of year, noticing the brilliance of color, of leaves and so forth. It might be the smell of coffee in the morning. I love that smell when I've just ground my coffee beans. It could be the taste of a delicious meal or the feeling of a breeze outside. So I'm just curious to hear from folks if there are particular reminders for you that either just come naturally or maybe you've cultivated over time as a sort of an intentional reminder to slow down, to pause, and to just notice. So anything that come to mind sensation-wise, it can also be a thought or an emotion. Yes, Anita, I love that. A hug from my child. The sound of rustling leaves, birds singing. Yeah, that's great. A light breeze on my face. Colleen says, when I notice the smell of fresh air. Susan says, twinge in my stomach. Am I hungry or is it something else? Yeah, that's wonderful. Just that opportunity to pause, because that's really what this practice is about. It's about remembering to be present in some way, remembering to notice sensations with interest and curiosity. So I love that curiosity that Susan's pointing to. Julia says, I notice I clench my jaw. Yeah, that's great. And then there's that opportunity to make a different choice, right? To sort of maybe get curious about what's causing that clenching in the jaw and to see if there's a way to release something that's not needed. And as I said, it could be a thought too. Sometimes in the middle of the day, I'll just have this image or thought of my beautiful granddaughter. And that's just a lovely way to sort of drop into heart space and to pause. So I'd like to share a couple of quotes. And these are from a Burmese monk, Sayadaw U Tejaniya. And the first is, your responsibility is only to maintain awareness, moment to moment, in a relaxed way and with interest. And then another one is, if the mind is scattered, just recognize that. There is no need to try to restrict or rein in a restless mind. The fact that you recognize it means that something is already at work. Just know this gently without getting lost in thought. Yeah. And Janice says, warm tingling in my chest. I notice, usually with awe. Yeah, that's great. Great. So we can share more as we practice, but again, the practice really is as simple as that kind of remembering. And that includes noticing if we like or dislike something that arises, or if we're practicing what pulls us away from being present, and then noticing that, that gets to that restlessness of mind that Tejaniya speaks of, and how we can then notice that and be interested and curious about that experience. And then every now and then in practice or in these noticings, these awarenesses we have in our day to day, we can feel this sort of moment of bliss when there really is integration of body and mind. So would love more thoughts about that as we move into practice. But let's now shift into practice. And I'll offer some guidance at the beginning, and then we'll have some periods of silence. So find a posture that feels right for you in this moment, and it could be a seated posture, or if it feels better to stand, that's fine too. If you've been sitting for a long time already, just see if the body needs something to be able to settle, perhaps a little stretch or a movement. And perhaps inviting in again a couple of intentional deep breaths as we settle into a posture that feels both wakeful and invites relaxation and ease, allowing the eyes to close if that feels right, or dropping the gaze in a way that enables us to adopt more of an inward focus. Feeling into the weight of the body supported by the earth, supported by the seat, feeling the hands where they're making contact, the feet on the floor. Just taking a moment to sweep through the body, maybe beginning at the top of the head, taking time to notice any sensations in the face, if there are any areas that are contracted or tight, and sweeping down through the neck and shoulders, taking your time to go through the whole body, just inviting in ease, seeing if you can let go of anything that's not needed, just inviting a sense of release. You can come back to this throughout the practice whenever it's helpful. Where the body breathing, rhythm of the breath, sounds coming and going, just trusting simplicity, the simplicity of this awareness of sensation. And choosing whatever anchor is most supportive for you to bring a sense of collectedness of attention. And that might be the breath in a more focused way. You might notice the breath coming in and going out in a particular area, like the nostrils, the chest, or the belly. Could also be sounds coming and going, or the feeling of the hands or the feet in contact. Whatever most easily brings this feeling of softening, of collectedness, and supports noticing changing sensations over this period of time. Nothing else to do, nowhere else to be. Just inviting in qualities that support learning about the mind, learning about our experience. And each time you notice you've been lost in thought, gently noting and returning. This is really the rich opportunity of practice, meeting this moment of awareness with interest and with kindness. Sounds, sensations, thoughts, and emotions arise and pass naturally, and there's nothing to get rid of. Room for everything. Just this, simple and easy. And in the last minute or so of the practice, if you've been attending in a more focused way, like attention exclusively on the breath or sound or a particular sensation, seeing if you can just widen the lens and really take this last minute to open the awareness to all that's here right now, including this supportive community. And as we bring the practice to a close, may we all be happy and peaceful. May the deepest wisdom and love guide and protect us all. And just taking some time to bring some movement back into the body. If the eyes have been closed, slowly allowing them to open. And as you're ready, bringing the attention back. And in our remaining time, again, welcoming any questions you may have, anything you'd like to share about your experience, a favorite resource, a book, or a poem. I'm also very interested in what anyone might like to share about ways that you remember intentionally throughout the day to come back to presence. And, in these days of all our technological options, there are so many ways to do this. What always comes to mind for me is a dear friend of mine had at one point someone difficult in her life, and on her phone she changed the name to Breathe. So whenever that person called, instead of seeing the name, she would see Breathe come up on the phone. And we can do that kind of thing with a particular ringtone as well that might bring sort of a sense of calm. Or humor is a great way, I think, to also help settle and remind us about choices to be present. So anything else? Teresa, can you reread the part you read about restlessness? Yes. So, and I will also, let me see if I can paste in where the resource here that this comes from. If anybody is interested, there's a daily snippet that comes out every day, a daily quote from Sayadaw U Tejaniya, which is also a wonderful reminder for me to start the morning with just that moment to take in the words. So the quote is, if the mind is scattered, just recognize that. There is no need to try to restrict or rein in a restless mind. The fact that you recognize it means that something is already at work. Just know this gently without getting lost in thinking. Julia says, when my mind wanders, and usually it wanders to a story, not a positive one, this practice helps me label it. And I say, is it true? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. There's a great practice, and this actually comes from, it's called The Work by Byron Katie, and it's a 4-question process that asks, is this true? Am I 100% sure this is true? To test it out. What happens to me when I believe this thought? And who would I be without the thought? So I don't have a link handy right now, but if you Google The Work or Byron Katie, ByronKatie, I think, The Work, you'll find those 4 questions. And they've also been adapted for mindfulness. So, yeah. Thank you. The Work. Thank you, Julia. That's great. Yeah. So that can be just really helpful to use to remind us to be more curious and to challenge the first thought that comes to mind. Yeah, happy to reread. And the other quote was, your responsibility is only to maintain awareness moment to moment in a relaxed way and with interest. And there's just so many playful ways we can do that throughout the day, whether it's those little things we can do with our phones, with our technology, or just remembering every time you walk into the bathroom to be mindful for just that moment or two. So welcoming in these last few seconds, if anybody has anything else to share, and Please keep discovering ways that work for you within the day to come back to the present moment, and know that you're always welcome to share those in community here. So thank you all for being here this morning, for your practice. I look forward to seeing you again and hope you can join tomorrow and Thursday. Best in the day, everybody. Thanks. Bye-bye.